Call the meeting to order. If you please stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everyone to the regular board meeting. First, we have approval of minutes. August 6th, town board special meeting. August 13th, town board meeting. August 22nd, town board special meeting. Is there a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
I just have to abstain from the 13th. I wasn't present for that meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Public comment, agenda items, anyone wishing to speak? Nancy?
I just want to make a comment about number one, the Rockland Paramedic Services. I'm not doubting that they are high quality, and I know several people that work for them. No, so it has nothing to do with that, it has nothing to do with New Windsor, and they are certainly wonderful people who are more than qualified, and I have worked personally hand in hand with several of them on many instances. I just find it interesting that a paramedic service that works down in Rockland County is asking for a letter to operate in Orange County, and I'm wondering if they have also asked Woodbury, and if they have asked for Montgomery, and the other ambulance areas as well. And it doesn't make a difference really in the big scheme of things, but it's interesting to note the connection between Rockland Paramedic Services, their CEOs and their chain of command with agencies in this area. So I just find that very interesting, and I would, I wanted to just express that point of view, and I think that, and maybe you have done your homework, I'm not saying you haven't, and again, nothing against that letter going forward, but I just find it interesting with the interconnectedness between the different agencies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Hear no one. First item we do have is the Rockland Paramedic Services. It's a request, Rockland Paramedic Services, not-for-profit, seeking an EMS operating certificate for a new ambulance service in Orange County, New York. Component of the application process requires we seek letters of endorsement from organizations such as ambulance services, municipalities, hospitals, and other EMS stakeholders within and adjacent to the service area. Basically, I did have this discussion with Michael Big Jr. Regarding the letter from and the request from Rockland Paramedic, and while we have designated New Windsor as being our ALS primary service, and then I guess they have a protocol for others, but his response was that a lot of areas in Orange County are suffering from a lack of service, and having Rockland Paramedic involved, that he didn't really see any real downside to it. So as to other aspects of it, I don't know, all we're saying is that we have no objection if they bring their services into Orange County. So I'll just entertain a motion that we send a letter of support for their request, and they can take it from there. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved, second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Request from the building and ground superintendent to purchase a leaf bagging system. He received quotes from Joe Small Engine of Pine Bush, $2,718.72. Sherwood's Power Equipment, coincidentally, $2,718.72. And Newburgh Power does not carry a compatible system for our mowers. So his recommendation is that Sherwood's being closer, that we accept the proposal from Sherwood to purchase the Toro Easy Vac blower and drive kit with the bags for $2,718.72. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Move second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next, we have the contract with Orange County for snow and ice control for 2018-19 season. Whereas County Cornwall received an agreement for control of snow and ice on certain county roads for 2018-19 season, which obligates the town to remove snow and ice from county roads in return for a payment to the town by the county of $4,800 per mile. for the designated roads. And whereas the town wishes to enter into the agreement with the county, may therefore be resolved as follows. One, the town board does hereby agree to enter into the agreement for control of snow and ice on certain county roads listed on Schedule A annexed here too. And made part of this resolution, authorize the supervisor to execute the same. Two, that the town agrees to provide the county with required certificates of insurance together with the agreement executed by the supervisor. Is there a motion on the agreement?
So moved. Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion's carried. Next is to set the public hearing date for the benefit assessment districts. We have several, and the list, I'll read the resolution. Whereas the town of Cornwall maintains various benefit assessment districts, whereas it's required the town board hold public hearings on the benefit assessments for the said districts within the town of Cornwall. Now therefore be resolved as follows. Town board hereby sets a public hearing date for, we'll make it 7 o'clock on October 9th, 2018, to receive and discuss comments from the public on benefit assessments, and that due notice of the same is directed to be given by publication and posting. We'll set the one time to start all the hearings and just go in sequence. So motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion's carried. Next, I have a resolution on the Community Development Block Grant. Some wording had to be changed in this, I think, in a resolution. Steve, you...
We previously adopted this in February. Now the county got back with us. They wanted to add that language regarding the Orange Urban County Consortium Community Development Guidelines and how we have reviewed them and approved.
Okay.
So we adopted the resolution.
And without reading the resolution, the motion to dispense with reading.
So moved.
Move second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Yes. I move, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Okay, next item is on Bridge Street Bridge. In working with the Main Street grant that we are receiving from Senator Skoufis, we had discussions about the Bridge Street and about the bridge. I requested that the county, if they would just take a look or research it and sort of give us an evaluation. They have not done any real engineering on it. They've looked at the record. They've looked at the previous inspection reports that date back to 2007 when the bridge was closed. And obviously there's some serious issues with the bridge. Our engineer had estimated a couple of years ago, we put a grant in for roughly $1.5 million to replace the bridge, but we did not receive the grant. And basically the reason was that in reviewing it, they said that there really wasn't enough volume of traffic on it. So there's not much hope of getting grants for it. But we do have concerns over the condition of the bridge and the liability we face. So I did receive an email today from Eric Denega, who's the Commissioner of Public Works for the county. And per your request, I've asked our bridge engineering team to perform a conceptual review of the Bridge Street Bridge as a follow-up to the 2007 analysis that was completed to give the town of Cornwall an idea of options and ballpark costs associated with maintaining the bridge for pedestrian use, before proceeding and hiring a consultant to further evaluate and design the improvements. Our engineers feel there may be an option to perform short-term mitigation measures, utilizing steel beams and cables to retain the structure of the stone arches on either side of the bridge, and also to eliminate as much water infiltration as possible by remortaring the joints to prevent further loss of stones in the arch. This could theoretically stabilize the crossing for passive pedestrian use only, along with a program of routine monitoring by a qualified consultant. Keep in mind that freeze-thaw cycles will further compromise the outer ring arch. The town would pursue such an option. Qualified PE consultants should verify this preliminary assessment, perform more detailed inspection and design. Please also refer to the below email from Tony Scotto, Senior Structural Engineer, for more detailed description of the existing conditions in comparison to the Willow Avenue Bridge, which the county just replaced, actually, right?
Removed and put a culvert in.
Right. So, we've attached photos of conditions of Bridge Street Bridge, as well as photos of a series of repairs completed on the Willow Avenue Bridge, which is similar structure. Conceptual short-term repair option is similar to Willow photos, which depict steel beam channels on either side of the bridge pulled together with cables and tension. I have our staff pulling together approximate costs of Willow Avenue Bridge work, which I hope to get to you later this week. I believe it was done with county forces, so we'll have to summarize the manpower and equipment used. There's a third photo attached to the Willow Avenue Bridge, which shows a long-term vehicular traffic solution which utilized a large arch culvert and new block walls. They attached a 2007 inspection report. I think the bottom line is, at this point, and on the one sentence that Eric had put in here, this could theoretically stabilize the crossing for passive pedestrian use, which to me indicates it is not considered to be stable at this point in time. So I think we've got a couple decisions to make. I believe that the first decision really is that we should really close the bridge off for pedestrian traffic. Just from a safety standpoint, the bridge was closed in 2007 due to its deteriorated condition. It certainly hasn't gotten better in the past decade, and to err on the side of caution, I think is the right thing for the town to do. So I think if the board votes to close the bridge off completely to pedestrian traffic, then going forward we'll have to decide what our options are. It may be, in the long run, taking down the bridge and eventually putting a pedestrian walkway over. I think it's essential to have a connection from Main Street, in the center of Main Street, over the creek to so that the residents on the other side can certainly access it by walking. But I think the first thing is, looking to see if there's any feasibility or possibility of any reasonable repairs. And again, it's probably a Band-Aid. I think that's the indication that we would get, short of a $1 million plus rehab. But if the board determines at some point in time that the bridge should come down, then I think we'd be in a better position to then seek funds for actually having a nice pedestrian arch bridge put in place so that it would be available for people, the residents on the other side of the Main Street area. So I think in the interest of public safety that we should close the bridge now to pedestrian traffic, and the board will have to begin looking at what our options are going forward. Is there a motion on closing the bridge officially to pedestrian traffic and any?
Is it possible to get an opinion from an engineer, take a hard look at it to see if we have to close it to pedestrian traffic, and is it imminent?
Well, I think we've already looked at it, truthfully. I mean, the engineers looked at it when they did the grant 2 years ago here. The problem is that,
I just hate to cut them off.
well, I realize that, but on the other hand, I mean, I'm going on this one sentence and even having a conversation. Matter of fact, Nancy Proyak was the first one to mention to us that Eric had mentioned to her about pedestrian traffic at our meeting a week and a half ago, the Main Street meeting. And then I saw Eric the middle of last week, and he said he'd be sending the email. But I think the one sense here, this could theoretically stabilize the crossing for passive pedestrian use only. Which, like I said, to me that says that, and I'm not an engineer, but I have to believe that we can't sit here and say that that bridge is stabilized for any use at all.
They're saying work is required just for pedestrian.
Exactly, that's what I'm looking.
And they don't know the extent of the deterioration.
No, because there hasn't been a recent update. But we will have to engage an engineer at some point in time, A, to take another look at the bridge, and B, if the determination is that we want to remove the bridge, then we would obviously have to put together specifications to get the bridge removed and do an engineering analysis and all. So, sir, the motion, did you make a motion, Helen?
No, we're,
Was there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Yeah, this seems a little rushed, and since, all outward appearances, the bridge looks fine for pedestrian traffic. I agree with Peter that we should have a second opinion before we take the action of closing the bridge altogether. We haven't seen I haven't seen the 2007 report.
It's on file, Michael, you're welcome to.
Well, I'm saying is, I haven't seen it, and I prefer not to take that step until we have a second opinion, and/or that we have specific next steps to have qualified engineers come in and do the evaluation, not to just have an open-ended closing the bridge
Mhm.
and without having specific next steps.
Well, when you say you haven't seen it, have you been underneath the bridge?
Yeah.
You've gone down and looked at it?
Mhm.
So, it's not in the best shape, I think you'll
But
you'll
it's,
affirm that.
it's
You're not an engineer, and I'm not.
I'm not an engineer. I only have an armchair observation.
Yeah. But I think in the interim, quite honestly, I think we've reached a point, and based on what I think the county has just told us in this email, based on their bridge people that looked at the reports on the condition of the bridge since
But
2007.
you're pointing to one sentence, and one sentence
Well,
isn't enough to.
I'm satisfied with that one sentence, and maybe Carrie wants to add to that, but
Well, I think we may be erring, but we're erring on the side of caution until we have a further engineering study of the bridge to determine if in fact it can hold pedestrian traffic.
support it. So in the interim, I think it's safe to close it. We can then authorize our engineers to take a look at it and evaluate it and go from there. If they come back and say, hey, don't worry about it, open it back up, the pedestrians can walk on it, that's perfectly fine. But I think we have reached a point, we've talked about this for quite a while, this is no surprise.
Mhm.
So
Can we at least give the public a timeline on when it'll be evaluated?
I think if the board wants to authorize the engineer now to do an evaluation on this, then, we can move ahead with it. But let's close it.
I can concur with that.
Yeah, let's close it.
As long as we
and-
give it, it's not open-ended now, there's a
No,
time.
no, that's what,
Okay.
no, because I think
That's fine.
in the short, and I feel that the town, we talked about this at the committee meeting, we really have reached the point with the Bridge Street Bridge, we have to make a decision.
No, I got that.
Either you're gonna spend the money to fix the bridge so people can walk over it. Aesthetically, it's an old bridge that, it's always gonna be an old bridge as long as it's there. I think aesthetically, if the bridge is in such bad shape that it really should be removed, having a nice arched pedestrian walkway coming across is certainly far more appealing.
Moving in the future, that's what I will hope to see, but at the immediate time, the last communication from the county was unsafe for pedestrian traffic. So that's
That's what we have.
enough alone to say we have to do something.
Okay.
But, my concern is at least tell the public we're doing something now. So we're gonna have an engineer come in and evaluate it in the near future, so at least we can determine if it has to stay closed or if we can reopen.
I'm good with that. So you amend the motion to authorize our engineer to
To close the bridge
review
until we can
and
have an
evaluate.
engineer, and the motion includes allowing an engineer to do the evaluation and come back to us, but I do feel the bridge should be closed. Should something happen to someone, and now we're on notice, we're really putting ourselves out there, so I feel we should close it and authorize the engineer, and so we can make further steps.
Right, I just want to underscore, that these concerns are not new. We've really
That's
been
right.
talking about this for the past couple of years, to be honest with you. Okay, move the second roll call vote.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Buck? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. And I'll get a hold of the engineers and get them scheduling that. Okay, next is a proposed amendments to the vehicle and traffic law. The chief and I have discussed the need to make the amendment. There's obviously some signage change at the traffic circle. There's a stop sign that was, I guess, for a few years in the wrong place over in Firthcliffe Heights, was moved to the right place, and now there really should be a sign where it was put in the wrong place. And the other is the parking on Main Street, or Hudson Street, which impacts the sight distance when you're coming up Veterans Way there to Hudson Street. It's very difficult to see what vehicles are coming to the east. So we can set a public hearing. I was thinking we could set this for, I'll read the resolution. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Cornwall has a local law before it entitled Local Law amending Chapter 143 of the Code of the Town of Cornwall entitled Vehicle and Traffic. Whereas the Town Board has determined it is appropriate and in the public interest to enact a local law for the purpose of adopting stop signs and yield signs and amending the parking regulations in a certain area of the town, and therefore be resolved as follows. 1, that the movement of this resolution is hereby introduce the above proposed local law. 2, that a public hearing on proposed local law be scheduled for October 9th at 7:10 p.m. And due notice same is directed to be given by publication and posting. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Move second, discussion. Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yeah.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Monk?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried.
I just reaffirm what I said at the work session, I hope the people across the street just get a heads
I think the
up.
chief is going to contact them just to let them know
Public hearing.
that the public hearing. Okay, next I have a proposal from Matrix we have our telephone system with. As we all know, the phones have been an absolute nightmare.
I got hung up on you.
Pardon?
I got hung up on the other day.
Well, I had a conversation, yeah, well, today I had a conversation with somebody and we got cut off 3 times. So, but the problem, first of all, the proposal is from Matrix, who installed the hardware and the internal, the new phones and the internal system. And the hardware and all was set for what we thought was going to be through Verizon with what they call a PRI system, which we've talked about in the past. And after they took a few months to run the fiber optic to the building, then they installed the PRI last fall, and they found out that we can't connect to their station where the PRI goes into, so it didn't work. So the alternative at that time was to go through the internet, and that doesn't work. I mean, dropped calls, people answering. So we're left now with the choice of going back just on a system with Verizon, not through a PRI. The PRI offered us more options with the phone system internally. Not having the PRI cuts down on the options, but at least we'll have service that we all can rely on. So in order for Matrix to add the additional hardware to tie it into the, I guess it's called an analog system, it's $2,984 to provide that hardware. And again, we can't point fingers at Matrix. Matrix did what we asked them to do, and that was to install hardware that would connect to the PRI. The PRI didn't work out, so now it's got to be modified to do this. So I'll read the resolution. Whereas the town has received the attached proposal from Matrix Communications to expand system capacity and add central office trunk line ports to the town's phone system. Whereas the town is prepared to accept the attached proposal from Matrix and move forward with the installation. Therefore, be resolved as follows. The town board hereby agrees to enter into the said agreement with Matrix and authorizes the supervisor to execute the same. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Monk?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes. Motion is carried. I have requests, 2 requests actually from the chamber. The first is Small Business Saturday. This year will be the 7th year I've organized a shop hop that takes place on Small Business Saturday. Small Business Saturday this year falls on Saturday, November 24th. Requesting the use of Bridge Street apron again for the Greater Cornwall Chamber to provide a continental-style breakfast, coffee, orange juice, bagels, donuts, Small Business Saturday shopping bags, and shop hop scorecards that participants need to have to validate at each small business featured on the card. Each year I try to add something new to entice more participation to give shop hoppers a unique experience. This year requesting the use of the sidewalk that runs along 277 Main Street, and we assume that's along the municipal lot from front to back, correct? We're still in the planning stage, but seeking permission so we can move forward, inviting artists and approving displays. Certificate of insurance along with any other forms or permits will be submitted as required by Cornwall Town law. Thank you for your consideration. I think the only thing that, because we are going to close the bridge and that area of the bridge between the bollards, that they would be able to use that front section of Bridge Street between that and Main Street for the setup. Yeah, it's a small setup, so that would be fine. Is there a motion to approve with that
So moved.
Second.
discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Monk?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next, after the chamber, we'd like to request Saturday, October 27th, Halloween Spooktacular will take place on Main Street. We'd like to request Main Street be closed from Willow Avenue to Traffic Circle, in front of Canterbury Brook Inn from 1:30 to 4 p.m. Registration and trick-or-treating will be from 1:30 to 2:45, with the parade following at 3 down Main Street from Traffic Circle to Willow Avenue, loop around and return to Main Street to Bridge Street. Bridge Street, the chamber will give out prizes, the best costumes, and light refreshments. December 2nd, the chamber would like to request that the traffic circle on Main Street be closed to Willow Avenue from 2:30 to 6:30 for the horse carriages, Santa Land at Bridge Street, and the lighting of the Christmas tree, traffic circle on Main Street. Format for the event, 3 to 5 horse carriages, from 3 to 5, I got it, from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I'm thinking 3 to 5 horse carriages, we don't know how many are coming. 2 will be giving rides between Traffic Circle and Willow Avenue. Shop owners and business have refreshments for the public.
Yes.
Santa will be meeting children at Santa Land located at Bridge Street, from 5:30 to 6, ceremony and lighting of the Christmas tree. Thank you for assistance. Please call me with questions. Eileen Hartman. Is there a motion to approve the event?
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll
Are
call.
they asking for traffic to stop from 2:30 to 6:30? Did I hear that?
Yes. Yes, I think that was the initial, 2:30 to 6:30.
Huh?
That's what we did last
Yeah, 2:30 to 6:30.
I thought the traffic opened up at 5 o'clock when the horse carriage was done.
year. No, because the tree lighting.
Tree light.
The circle.
Oh, in the circle, just the circle, not Main Street.
Right.
Okay.
So just on this too, 'cause I know, Eileen, that you're in charge of it, but the actual ceremony and lighting the tree will actually start at 5:30 this year,
Yes.
right? Okay, because I know there was some confusion last
Well,
year.
last year, the fire department was supposed to provide the lighting, so they didn't get up in time. If there's always something that goes wrong, so we think, we rented everything this year, so it should be fine.
All right.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes, motion's carried. Next item is on the demolition of 40 Paradise Road. It's a house that was struck by a huge tree which really demolished the house and has to be removed. The owner is not in a position apparently to remove the house, so the town has moved to
Raise it,
remove it.
demolish and raise it.
Whereas heretofore the building inspector advised an unsafe building exists at 40 Paradise Hill, section block and lot 36-1-19 in the town of Cornwall. Whereas on April 9, 2018, the town board adopted an order directing the building be demolished and removed, and that notice of the action be served upon the owner. Whereas a hearing before the town board was held pursuant to Chapter 72 of the Town Code on May 14, 2018. Whereas the property owner has not, as of this date, taken any action. Whereas the town's consulting engineers, Wagowie, Hauser, and Etzel, were authorized and have prepared plans and specifications for the demolition and removal of the building. Therefore, be it resolved as follows. 1, town board does hereby authorize the solicitation of bids from for the demolition and removal of the above unsafe structure. 2, the town board does hereby authorize the town supervisor, Wagowie, Hauser, and Etzel, to agree upon such date and time when the bids will be publicly opened and read aloud, therefore presented to the town board at a town board meeting. And 3, that all expenses incurred by the town in connection with said demolition and removal shall be assessed against the land on which the building is located and shall be levied and collected in the same manner as provided in Article 15 of the town law for the levy and collection of special ad valorem levy. And 4, that the town assessors hereby authorize and direct to take all action necessary for affecting the levy and collection of the town's said expenses. And 5, town board hereby authorizes supervisor to execute any and all documents in connection with the above. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes, motion is carried. Okay, next item is on the new roof that has to go on the police department and the annex. We're very fortunate that Senator Larkin was able to get us a grant for the replacement of the roof. The issue right now is the timing of it. The roof is leaking very badly, and really we have to move as soon as we can to have it replaced. The paperwork is moving forward on the grant. What I'd like to do now is just have a resolution that will authorize the engineer to go ahead and draw up the specs and all to be prepared to go out to bid as soon as we are in a position to move ahead with bidding and awarding of a contract to get the roof replaced as soon as possible. So, whereas the town wishes to install a new roof on the police department annex building, whereas the town has requested Senator Larkin consider the town for member grant for town hall improvements, including the roof replacement, upgrading, and installation. Whereas in order to put said roof out for bid, it's necessary for the town's consulting engineers to prepare plans and specifications for the roof replacement project. Therefore, be resolved as follows. 1, Town Board hereby authorizes McGoley Hauser and Etzel to prepare plans and specifications for the above roof replacement project. 2, the Town Board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute any and all documents in connection with the above. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Very grateful
Oh,
to Senator Larkin for his support of Cornwall.
Absolutely. Long and continued.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next, I have, actually, I'm going to sort of combine the two, the replacement of the windows in the town hall and the handicap accessibility for the rear of the town hall. Again, this is through a grant we received from Senator Larkin. The engineers preparing the specifications so that we can go out to bid. And my discussion with the engineer this afternoon, Steve, is that we're actually going to go out and bid the two projects, since they're here, right here in Town Hall, go out and bid them at the same time. And
Gonna bid them in a single document? or
a
you
single
gonna bid them
document, and then there'll be, you know, project 1, project 2.
separate? Okay.
So he's comfortable with that. So I'm just going to do one resolution, if that's all right. We'll just add one to the other, or you want me to read both resolutions and adopt them both?
Well, I think, yeah, you bet, we might need them if we have grant money on this to,
Do it separately?
to be, we want to bid them together is the issue.
Correct.
So, let me see here.
And this just came about later this afternoon, so.
What I would suggest, if I might, is for someone to move that the resolutions be combined, and just for simplicity's sake, we waive the reading. We'll prepare a resolution combining these two to actually have on file. All you're doing is putting out for bid the work on the windows and the work on the rear.
Together. It'll save us a little bit of money in terms of
And then we'll have the formal
documents.
resolution singly.
Okay.
So if somebody make a resolution to combine and waive the reading on these.
I move what he said.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Second.
Second discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. All right,
And I'll prepare and get that to Renata tomorrow morning.
okay,
Thank you.
sounds good. Okay, this is through the County Emergency Management, just a resolution to authorize the acceptance and adoption of multi-jurisdictional hazardous mitigation plan update for Orange County. This is for us to continue participating in that. So I read it, whereas Orange County Department of Emergency Services, with the assistance of Barton and LaJudas, DPC has gathered information, prepared the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan update for Orange County, New York, and whereas the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan update for Orange County, New York has been prepared in accordance with the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 and Title 44 Code of Federal Regulations, CFR Part 201, whereas Title 44 CFR Chapter 1, Part 201.6 C5 requires each local government participating in the preparation multi-jurisdictional mitigation plan or plan update to accept and adopt such plan. Whereas the Town of Cornwall has reviewed the 2016 multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan update for Orange County, has found the document to be acceptable, and as a local unit of government has afforded citizens an opportunity to comment and provide input regarding the plan update and the actions included in the plan. Whereas the Town of Cornwall will consider the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan update for Orange County during the implementation updating of local planning mechanisms, and will incorporate the hazard assessment data, hazard vulnerabilities, and mitigation actions in these mechanisms where applicable. Therefore, be resolved that the Town of Cornwall, as a participating jurisdiction, adopts the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan update for Orange County, New York, dated May 2016. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes. Motion is carried. Okay, next item is a resolution, proposed local law, peddling and soliciting amendment. We've been reviewing the peddler's law, and actually hasn't been updated in 25 years,
At least.
maybe almost 3 decades. So the attorney has been researching and has put together a draft plan for the board to move ahead with, and to schedule a public hearing for next month, give the public an opportunity to review it and make any comments on it. I think the major changes, Steve, if you just want to touch on it.
Yeah, there are two major changes, aside from a couple of semantical matters which really don't make any difference substantively. The first one is that as of now, the way that the law is drafted, anyone who holds a state peddler's license is exempt from your local law. So this would remove that exemption. If you have a state peddler's license, you would also have to apply for a local peddler's license, which I might add is in line with most of the municipalities around here. Secondly, as it stands now, the local law provides that applications for peddler's permits go to the town clerk. And there are certain representations and statements that you have to make as far as who you are and have you been convicted of a crime, what it is that you're going to be vending, where it is you're going to be vending, and so forth, that you have to provide to the clerk. And the code provides that the clerk can deny the permit, but doesn't really state the basis for which such denial would occur. You know, we've, over time, I don't know if we've ever, well, once or twice, no, I don't think we've ever denied one. I think we've told people we wouldn't issue them if there was a problem, but I don't think we've gotten out, not ever denied one. So it's a little bit of a disconnect there between the application that goes in and how you actually decide whether or not to grant a peddler's license. The new provision in law would provide that the application is to be submitted to the chief of police. Chief of police will render a report as to whether the location is safe and suitable, or there's some other issue with the peddler, for example. We investigate through a criminal check, make sure that you don't have someone who's unsavory, you know, doing this type of thing. And if the letter comes back with a clean bill of health, so to speak, then the clerk is in position to grant the permit. And if it comes back with objections, and the provision says that they have to be stated as to what those objections and reasons for denial are, then the clerk would deny it. In the event of a denial, there's an appeal to the town board. The appeal provision's in the code now, though, so that's really not any different. That's it. Those are the two changes.
Just for the record, that's already in place. Every peddler's permit that we get goes to Todd, goes to the chief.
Yeah, but
for
it
review.
doesn't contain the
Right,
provisions
doesn't-
regarding the criteria for
Mhm.
granting.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to read the resolution. Whereas the town board of Town of Cornwall has a local law before it entitled Local Law to amend the town code by revising Chapter 111 entitled Peddling and Soliciting. Whereas the town board has determined that it is appropriate and in the public interest to enact a local law for the purpose of requiring local permits for all vendors and clarifying the terms and conditions upon which such permits may be granted. Now therefore be resolved as follows. 1, that the movement of this resolution is hereby introduce the above proposed local law. 2, that a public hearing on the proposed local law be set for October 9, 2018 at 7:15 p.m. and that due notice of the same is directed to be given by publication and posting. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
What is the timeline for implementation of this law? When if it were to be voted in the affirmative October 9th, when does it actually hit the county's books and therefore is?
Well, Steve can answer it, but I know it gets filed in the Secretary of State.
Ordinarily, the local laws are made effective upon filing in the Secretary of State's office, which could take a couple of weeks, could be quick, depends on how backed up the Secretary of State is. However, if the board wishes, they can make the local law effective upon adoption. So you can make it effective that night even before it's on file with the Secretary of State. Those are pretty much the two options. I've heard of, I don't think the town's ever done it, local laws which make a amendment to a code effective at some point in the future, like as of January 1st or something along those lines. So I suppose it could be done, but I don't think Cornwall's ever done that.
Okay. So in regards to Martin Sauer, he would probably continue his current vending through the end of this season.
Well, yeah, I mean, whenever the law goes into effect, and it's required a permit through the town, an application law, then he would have to follow that procedure, whether it's this season or next season. So
Right.
whenever that timeline is, Michael.
Well, actually, my concern is not Martin Sauer this year. My concern is Martin Sauer next year and the year after, because when 32 is under construction, I think Chief Hazard has the responsibility of keeping vendors off of Route 32 while the KJ pipeline is being put in. And if Martin isn't willing to give up his spot due to construction, then that's a real problem. So does he still have the right going forward to remain on 32 based on his veterans eligibility?
Well, right now, he's operating under the state permit, which is issued through the county.
But he's a veteran, right?
He's a veteran, and that's why he gets that, and he gets that at no charge. When this town law goes into effect, then whatever the requirements of the town law are, then he would have to follow the town law, and a determination made. He would have to apply, go through the process, would go to the police chief, and determination would then be made like it would with any other applicant, not just Martin Sauer. This will apply to anyone who applies for a peddler's permit, or soliciting in town.
When will we be talking with the DOT about reducing the speed limit between Holleran Road and Ingola? Because I think that's the real issue. And, Martin just got caught up in, what is a speeding problem on Route 32, not of his making.
Well, it's speed, it's traffic movement, there are a number of things with it. A traffic engineer would be better identified, but it's not, speed is always a factor, but there are just traffic movements, sight distance, cars, how many cars coming in and out, what direction they're gonna go.
Right, so the businesses there are still at risk. Anybody who's pulling out of Orrs Mill Road is at risk of those people coming down a blind curve at 55 miles an hour. Holleran Road is still a risk trying to pull out onto 32. So when can we have this discussion with DOT about resetting that speed limit? Because that will solve a lot of risk.
Well,
issues.
quite honestly, that one's easy. The town can make a request for the DOT to study and at our request a reduced speed limit. Then it's up to them. They conduct their own surveys and studies, and they make the determination. So that part's easy. We can do that. It's just, it's up to the DOT then.
Great.
So we can let's discuss it. We can discuss it at the work session next month, and then if the board wants to do that, we can make the request to DOT.
Great, because I don't think the safety issue has gone away by changing this.
No, it's not. It's an issue that there's more than one moving part to it, let's face it. And you're right, when construction starts on the pipeline along 32 in certain sections, there's going to be other issues that, the public's going to have to deal with, and that the PD is going to have to deal with, and DOT is going to deal with, obviously, because they issue the permits for the work on 32 in the right-of-way.
DOT may make that speed limit part of the daily operating procedures anyway.
Yeah, no doubt.
They may have a reduced speed. Okay, move second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Pond?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion carried. Two other items that Peter had sent to me this afternoon, I would just, one is through the Recreation Department. They would like to ask the school district if they could have for the students involved in a design new logo for the town's farmers market, and if they would have any means of producing any signs of the selected logo. I think it's a great idea. It involves the kids in a little bit of commerce, and could be a fun thing for them. So is there a motion to make that request, authorize the Recreation Department to do that?
Make the motion that Recreation Department can contact the high school for a logo sign design contest for the farmers market.
For a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Pond?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, the motion is carried. Second item that Peter brought up is regarding distressed property remediation strategy. Peter, you want to just?
No, I had another complaint about another distressed property. It's on 32 Broadway, and it's the house right across from the parking lot, next to Chase Bank. And at this point, it is bank owned, but the bank is in Oklahoma. The property maintenance company keeps changing. We have posted violations on the property, but it doesn't appear to be secure. There's other issues with it, and spoke to Steve from the building department. He's been really on top of everything. But one of the comments that he had is perhaps we could do more if we had a more, for lack of a better term, a strategic plan on how to deal with these properties. So I started doing some of the research, and the Land Use Law Center at Pace University did a very comprehensive study for the city of Newburgh. They came up with some effective strategies and perhaps some legislation that we could pass in the future. Also, tracking, to be able to track these properties, to better address them. I sent some information to Steve late Friday, but I'll send you more information, and perhaps we can work on this and have a strategic plan moving forward to deal with these buildings so they don't linger in the neighborhood for any length of time.
And have that for work session maybe?
Yeah,
Steve?
sure. The state has a program in place where property is taken by a bank, a mortgage along those lines.
This is already registered with that.
Well, but you can give them notice of the violation, and they'll help pick up the enforcement of keeping the property in decent shape. So I'll look into that as well.
Okay. What we could do to have a plan and also track these properties and perhaps publish whatever public information that we have so people can stay on top of it. You know, I'd rather see investors take over the property than have them sit and deteriorate.
Can we add 15 Continental Road to that list too?
Well, we may have more, we may have more. I'll forward you Peter's email. He has information. You got that? On the bank, with the bank information and all?
I sent you the bank information,
Yes,
but I'll send you
yes,
everything
that's-
that I have.
All right.
And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and then we'll see what, how we can get involved with that. Maybe through the state law, or maybe, maybe just,
I'll have a memo before the work session.
Sounds good.
And there's a website that you can access through, I believe, the State Department, that you can make complaints against individual properties as a civilian, as well as the building department.
okay. All right, committee reports, Councilwoman Bunt?
I'll start with the planning, the building department, permits issued 37, CCs 28, COs 9, on-site inspections 106, complaints 4, stop work orders 1, notice of violations 7, 6 fire inspections, 2 sign removals, permit fees $15,163.50, fees for municipal search $5,100. There are one planning board projects open this month, 1 zoning, 1. That's it for the building department. For the senior committee, we are planning our barbecue picnic for October 5th. And Henderson Ozinski will be playing, and the food will be by DeChico's. There will be a $5 charge this year. The historical museum ad hoc committee seems to be having trouble finding a date to meet. So hopefully we'll have one this month, and most of us feel that it's pretty much over, but there's just a little bit more information some members want to add.
Okay.
So hopefully, I won't have to say in October, it'll be November.
All right, that's it, Al?
Yes.
Councilman Summerfield?
I connected with Lisa Carver of Central Hudson, and it seems that the easement route that Cornwall currently has for the sewage line is very similar to the route that Central Hudson proposed for relocating the utility poles behind Main Street, and that's just for the south side of Main Street. So what I'll do is I'll foil the existing easements to examine the language of the sewer main easements and determine what language changes would be required to extend the easements to utility lines. Additionally, I'll work with a few of the property owners to get them to get estimates for relocating their hookups from the front of their buildings to the rear, so we have a better overall understanding of what the cost will be to property owners along Main Street. And hopefully I'll have something to report back next month. Verizon, I don't have anything specific regarding cables. However, I did meet with the global head of real estate for Verizon on site, and after inspecting the site, he agreed that a facelift is overdue. So I supplied him with pallets and research that Linda Gayton had provided of neutral tones and other Verizon type buildings for a reference point for them moving forward to redo the outside of the building. Just as a reference point, the Architectural Review Committee is probably the group that would provide information like that, but they haven't met in years. And so I reminded EDAC to take a look at their organizing structure and see if they can meet at some time in the future. He also commented that the building is very unlike any other Verizon building because their motif is natural brick with conspicuous signage. But he said that he's going to look into it, with their design crews, and they'll come back, hopefully at a time similar to when all of the grant monies that are being expended on Main Street from Assemblyman Skoufist, so that there'll be some sort of momentum for downtown. For cable, I have nothing. Chamber of Commerce, you have all of the current announcements. CCAC, the NRA status, printing of maps is to be completed this week. Map packages, digital files are to be collected for that completion timeframe. Draft narrative is slated to go out to reviewers next week, and hopefully they'll still be on target for providing the NRA report before the end of the year. The National Heritage Plan, meetings to gather input from key community stakeholders in the planning process will take place next week through focus groups. Just as a reminder, the Natural Heritage Plan is a grant-funded effort coordinated by the Hudson Highland Land Trust that is using 25 maps of the area and combining them to show the recreational, water, scenic areas, cultural resources, etc. Then the organization will consider public input into what people favor the most and put together all the maps to easily identify main attractions and valued places in the area. This can also be combined with the Cornwall working group that had done the study on scenic areas last fall. Focus groups are going to be, focus group meetings will be held next week. And following that, a public meeting will be held to resolve any conflicts and map solutions, and that will likely take place in October or November at Munger Cottage. CCAC will be at the Fall Festival with a booth. Coordination planning is underway. LED streetlights presentation is going to be made at the next CCAC meeting Wednesday, October 3rd at Munger Cottage at 7 p.m. CCAC is doing Route 218 cleanup scheduled for Saturday, October 20th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. CCAC will be undertaking a recycling bin audit, which means they go into all garbage bins and pull everything out and try to determine what's being collected, maybe what's not being collected. They'll have a report for you at the end of the year. Lastly, community conversations at Cornwall Library will be hosting Professor Gerald Benjamin to discuss the ward structure of local government, what it is, why Blooming Grove adopted it, and why Chester is considering it. And that will be on, again, September 24th from 6 till 8 p.m. at the Cornwall Library. Oh, and one last thing on bridges. Is there any date for the repair of the Boulevard Bridge? It currently has pylons and...
The guardrails?
The guardrails.
Yes. I can't give you a date, but Kyle's been waiting for the contractor for the railings and all to get back to him.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to get that done this year. Councilman Russell?
Just correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we have an active architectural review committee. And if we did, we didn't make appointments to it.
We don't have, we don't have
We
one.
don't have that.
There was apparently, in looking back, some people were appointed several years ago to look at, a committee. They weren't formed as a committee to be an architectural review committee from what we're gathering. It was just people that put together to talk about architectural review,
That's absolutely right.
That's
right?
Yes.
Well,
So,
it had no expiration, so...
yeah, well, it had no beginning either, so it couldn't expire.
I want to be clear that we don't have an active.
We do not.
All right, for sewer, for August, for Shore Road, on top of routine maintenance, we're happy to report that all parameters, measured parameters, were within permit limits, so that's a good news. And then we have First Cliff. for August. Top of routine maintenance, everything with the exception of flow was within permit limits. And flow is a result of our extremely wet year that we've been having this year. And the good news is that all the other measured parameters are far below permit limits, so we're doing good in that aspect. But unfortunately, the water infiltration from all this moisture remains an issue, but only to 3/100ths of a degree in the measurements, but it is still an issue. As far as the police department, we covered all that with the different resolutions that we passed today. And then recreation, the only other thing on the agenda at this moment to be discussed further was a discount for the pool for veterans and first responders, but that still needs further discussion.
Look at that.
And that's all I have.
Okay, Councilman McGinnis?
For the month of August, the Highway Department assisted sanitation as needed, did road mowing and weed eating townwide, tree trimming to prep for road oil work, patching crews townwide with hot mix asphalt, catch basin repairs at various locations, trimming of sidewalk and guardrails townwide, sweeping of streets townwide, and sign repairs and replacement. The Comprehensive Plan Committee meeting, the next meeting will be Wednesday, October 17th. In the meantime, our planning consultant is assembling all of the parts of the plan that the committee has already addressed and putting them together for the committee's review prior to that Wednesday, October 17th meeting. That's all I have.
That's it. Okay. I do have just one thing I want to add in a letter to read. I just received it from Scenic Hudson, just so it's on the record, regarding the Cornwall Town Park 2018 Conservation Easement Monitoring. This for the Angola Road Park. Enclosed, please find a copy of Scenic Hudson's 2018 Monitor Inspection Report on the conservation easement over your property in the town of Cornwall. We fulfill our obligation under the terms of the conservation easement by conducting annual monitoring of your property. As indicated on the enclosed monitoring report, we did not observe any conditions on the property that violated the terms of the conservation easement. Scenic Hudson appreciates your continued cooperation and stewardship of the property. Signed, Sarah Turner, Conservation Easement Manager. I just want to get that on the record. We don't have to do anything with it. We have warrant number 9. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Move, second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Pond? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Public comment? Anyone? Bridget?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm back again on Wood Cemetery. On August 13, I was here thanking all of you for what you did. I mean, it was a fantastic job. 2 weeks ago, Saturday, Vince Mannion and myself went up to, just keeping track, making sure things are getting done. And we were horrified. A disaster has struck the cemetery. 2 big, gigantic trees that are probably there before the cemetery was there, right across the cemetery. Gravestones and everything. I called Rick and I told him about it. And I don't know what the town's plan can be to remove the trees and clean up. Or if we can claim disaster funds, I really don't know. I would leave that up to you, Rich. But I think we've got to do something. And I'd like to know if you have any plans or if you thought of anything since I spoke with you.
Well, we are going to remove the trees, clean that up.
You got the trees done?
We are going to.
Oh, you don't? Oh.
Right,
Highway Department's aware of them.
Yeah, I talked to the superintendent.
Ah.
I told him that the trees were down, and he's familiar because they were up there when they did all the mowing and weed whacking.
They're gigantic.
Well, they've got to come out, we've got to do that. And I will say, in terms of the headstones, I spoke to the company that's doing the headstone repair, replacement, or resetting up in Woodlawn Cemetery for the town of New Windsor. And I have asked them if they would come down to take a look at the Sands Ring Cemetery and the Wood Cemetery to give us some estimate on what they think it would cost to actually reset and repair the headstones that are up there. So at least if I can get that, at least we'll have some idea as to what the cost might be, so the town can then decide how we're gonna move forward
Well,
with
we
it.
also have to look at the walls surrounding it too, because the trees have come down on the wall,
Yeah.
and the wall needs to be totally redone. And
We're gonna take it one step at a time.
I know, it'll probably take years, but, you know, the disaster has really set us back,
Yeah.
and.
Well, we get the trees out of there and
For
so,
years, but on the wall, as far as just resetting the stones.
yeah, I'm not sure about the wall. I mean, the main thing right now is,
No, it's just the tree, we take that.
we've gotta get the tree out of there.
Phase one will
Right.
be the trees.
And then trying to do something with the headstones.
As far as the wall,
Yeah.
a Boy Scout project with some supervision.
Well, when I was here August, I asked the board to do a field trip, you know, and set a date, take a field trip, but, you know, we'll have to wait now till the weather breaks, and I would like you all really to see what actually is involved. I mean, you
Yeah.
really need to see it. I mean, it's nice, we have pictures, and I think the Cornwall local has pictures too. And, you know, but it would be nice if all of you would see what's involved.
You and Vinnie
I
both
mean,
have my number, give me a call, we'll go.
well, I will just set a date, and I'll send everybody an email. We'll take a hike
Figure.
up there, put on your boots and everything else, and we'll take a hike up there.
all right, Bridget, no, we
It's
will.
quite safe, so.
First thing, we'll get the trees out of there and then we'll,
That's the
we'll go.
phase one,
Yeah.
yes,
We
yes.
will.
And you'll be doing that before the winter sets in.
oh,
right?
I'm sure. Right now, the guys are just tied up with road work and everything, but.
Good, good, good. But I'm sorry to have to bother you guys, but this is important,
We understand, Bridget.
you
We're
know,
with you.
so I don't want to be a pest.
We're with you.
know. So-
No, we will. We'll follow up on it.
But I will be keeping, you know, Vince and I will be keeping an eye on the whole thing.
Good.
We'll report to the Legion so that the Legion knows, you know. And believe it or not, there was one flag that we had put in, you know, during the service we had and everything. And in the Cornwall local, I think two weeks back, a member, I think it was the forest manager, Mr. Brody, wrote a letter in reference to some trees, little tiny trees that had been planted, and were hoping that the crew, when they went in to clean up, had not done any harm to them. Believe it or not, the trees did not get hit. One is quite large and the others are quite small. And I said, my goodness, this gentleman just spoke about who had planted these trees, and they avoided the damage.
Strategic planning.
So, okay.
So, all right, Bridget, thanks very
Thank
much.
you all for listening, I appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, hearing no one else, motion to adjourn?
We paid the warrant?
Oh,
We did the warrant.
Do that.
We did the warrant.
Yes, we did.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.